Many thanks for joining another episode of Gist Nigeria from the BBC and Channels Television. Here we track stories online in the news and dissect them. I am Uwali Fakile. Let's kick off with our top story. Last Sunday, Alau Dam in Northeastern Nigeria's Borno state collapsed, and a few hours after, torrential floods submerged 70% of Maiduguri, the state capital. State Governor Babagana Zulum says at least 2 million residents were affected, while National Emergency Management Agency NEMA says at least 30 people died. In this story, Gist Nigeria's Ayuba Iliya speaks to experts and stakeholders to analyze what went wrong and how to avoid a national disaster.
With over 1 million people affected and at least 37 dead in Maiduguri, northeast Nigeria, this is the state of Alau Dam.
Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun.
This video went viral Thursday of flooding. Though the Nigerian government says the dam is intact, more questions remain unanswered.
How come we didn't know that the dam in Maiduguri needs to be deseated? How? How come we didn't know that the carrying capacity of the dam is so small?
Adama Mustafa was only an infant when the water from Alau Dam flooded Maiduguri in 1994, displacing an estimated 400,000 people. 30 years after, the rampaging waters are back.
I was in the house when I heard the sound of water gushing in, so we ran out and we saw the water had spilled all over the market outside. We ran and left our father. We are unsure if he made it out or not.
The National Emergency Management Agency reports that over 400,000 people have been displaced, with 37 deaths recorded. Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum says at least 2 million people have been affected.
What happened is that the Federal Ministry of Water Resources ought to have been carrying out routine maintenance of dams. Honestly speaking, this has not been done for a long time.
Earlier in a press conference, Minister of Water Resources Joseph Utsev denied there was a dam collapse, saying the flooding was caused by an overflow of the Nagada River. Gist Nigeria visited the site and found that the dam had given way before the floods. Satellite images show that there are 2 gates controlling the flow of water from the Alau Lake. A close look at the satellite image shows that one of the gates was partly damaged as of October 2022. This second image shows the state of the gate after the collapse. Our drone footage here shows the damage on part of the collapsed dam.
The dam was broken about 30 years ago, but the extent of damage cannot be compared to what we saw this time around. There was clumsiness in the bureaucracy of managing that dam. Hence, there was inertia. There was inertia. And that inertia now has caused 30 people to die and 1 million to be displaced.
Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency has the duty of monitoring of water resources in Nigeria for adequate planning.
River Gesama and River Yauri, they are the 2 tributaries contribute water to the Alau Dam. The dam capacity is small, not because but it's adequate, small but adequate for Maiduguri metropolis, but not strong and big enough to receive such amount of rain.
A recent report by the Guardian newspaper showed that 761 million naira was allocated for the rehabilitation of the dam over the last 12 years.
Because there's no consequence for misdeeds, there's no punishment for misdeeds, laxity will continue to flourish. It will continue to flourish. This Maiduguri issue was highly avoidable.
This drone footage shows the devastation of the 2022 flood in several states across the country. NEMA estimated that close to 4.5 million people were affected, with 2.4 million displaced and 665 deaths recorded across 33 states. The Nigeria Bureau of Statistics estimated the cost of destruction to be between $3.79 billion and $9.12 billion. Experts blamed the release of water from Alau Dam in Cameroon and the failure to build buffer dams for the massive flooding. Over the past 2 decades, Nigeria recorded at least 6 dam-related flooding, with devastating consequences on communities. These hydro dam sites include Shiroro in Niger State, Obudu Dam in Cross River State, Kangima Dam in Kaduna State, Iliya Dam in Oyo State, Gusau Dam in Zamfara State, and Warawa Dam in Kano State.
River Niger is a transboundary river coming from about 9 countries and emptying into Nigeria. River Benue also coming from Cameroon and also come empty into Nigeria. So Nigeria is a big basin receiving.
Experts believe the impact of floods in Nigeria needs to be better managed.
From our own perspective, what we issue, like the seasonal climate prediction, we do it is a deliberate document that we do as early as January. And that gives you an ample time that this is the outlook of the Nigerian weather from January to December. So you find that anyone that is making planning, that tool is very essential to it.
It has been on record that Nigeria needs about 400 more dams, small and large dams, to be created. But most of these dams have never taken off.
There are also concerns that persistent flooding could worsen Nigeria's economic woes.
Africa was projected to be the most developing continent in the world, but they looked at climate change and say, look, despite your natural resources, your population and everything, you will be losing about 5% of your GDP, and that's a lot.
When flooding happens, the next thing we see is that 1 trillion, 2 trillion have been spent just supporting the affected people. But these are monies that could have been used to prevent the disaster in the first place.
We shall increase the carrying capacity of the dam, build more embankments, dikes, and then ensure that more spillways are installed.
For residents of Maiduguri, the Alau Dam disaster is a double jeopardy. But the realities of climate change are here to stay, as more states are predicted to experience floods.
On the high flood risk, I think we have a total of about 21 states. So which about 6 states already in the north have already been affected. So that is our predictions in Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency is about 80-85% accuracy.
Whatever way you call it, the environment is not the way it is. At least even in the last 10-20 years, it is not the same thing. Talk less of talking in the last 50 or 100 years.
Beyond the predictions, experts say government must be proactive in mitigating the impact of climate change.
The money involved in climate change is so huge. It's so huge. We are talking of an initial 3 trillion. You must assess that. We are talking of debt for nature finance. You must assess that. We must rescue the National Disaster Response Plan. We must rescue it and modify it because it is of systemic importance in that it is leveraging the natural disaster and the national security and the economy.
Policy makers need to come to an understanding that you cannot do what is best if you don't appreciate the science behind it. Communities that live in flood-prone areas, we need to find a way to help them to improve their resilience. So, for example, they are the ones that need, structures that can hold at least smaller amounts of water or structures that can help to reduce the intensity of flow.
As more states plan to mitigate the impact of predicted flooding, Nigeria's climate resilience is once again put to the test. Experts insist that unless authorities put adequate structures in place this deluge that led to losses of life and property will definitely happen again. Ayuba, Iliya, Gist, Nigeria.
Well, our thoughts and prayers are with affected families. What do you think about Nigeria's efforts at managing its dams? Share your thoughts with us on X at Gist Nigeria TV. We'd like to hear from you.